Hello, this is Javier Vasquez, and this is my presentation on the Industrial Revolution for INDT 279. The Industrial Revolution is considered one of the most important movements in history that has directly impacted the way we live our lives today. Without the advancements made during this period, life as we know it would not exist. From the computers we use, to the food we eat, to the clothing that we wear. These are all products of the Industrial Revolution. But to truly understand why the Industrial Revolution was so important, you must understand how life was before the Industrial Revolution. Before the Industrial Revolution, people primarily lived through agriculture. They farmed on their own land, they farmed to feed their families, and they farmed to feed their communities. Travel was extremely limited. Most traveling was done by foot or with horse and carriage. Roads at this point in time were merely paths, dirt. They were very poor, if there were roads at all. Education was extremely limited for the poor. If you were rich, obviously you had better opportunities. But for the poor, education was minimal. Manufacturing was relatively small. If you needed something built or you needed something done, it was done locally. So the question is, if this is how life was lived for so many years, for hundreds, for thousands of years, what was the big change? What drove the Industrial Revolution? Well, the easiest answer is the invention of the steam engine. Thomas Savet built the first steam engine, which was a modified version of a previous steam cooker. Now, this steam engine was used primarily in Britain, and it was used to remove iron ore and coal. It did this by removing the water so that they could mine deeper. Now, this steam engine was reinvented by Thomas Newcomen, and then again reinvented again by James Watt. Now, James Watt is credited with the first reliable steam engine, and this steam engine would be repurposed and retooled to create the devices that drove the Industrial Revolution, like the steamboat and the steam locomotive. Now, with the boom in steam, also came the boom in infrastructure. Now we had a way to move goods across the country. During the same period, during the same time, the textile industry was also having a revolution or a boom, where up until this point in history, most textiles, most clothing, and any kind of cloth was done in the home, done by regular looms, until the creation of the spinning jenny, the water frame, the spinning mule, and the power loom. These inventions made the production of textile quicker, cheaper, and in a higher quality. And this textile industry was the breeding ground for modern manufacture. This is a video that I have in the presentation for purposes of this project. I will not be showing it. I will put a link on it if you wish to watch it later. So the Industrial Revolution brought us many things. With the boom in the textile industry, housing became cheaper, clothing became cheaper, also the quality of clothing became higher. Factories were built and jobs became more stable. The cities grew from the influx of people, education increased, and the creation of the middle class began. But with the Industrial Revolution also came things like child labor, long work weeks, unsafe conditions that caused lots of injuries, and with the influx of people into these large cities came what was called working ghettos. With so many towns booming because of the textile industry, and the textile industry needed a lot of people to run the factories, people now had living quarters that were very close to each other, so the spread of disease ran rampant, and you had what was considered the working poor. With all these people leaving the country, the farming areas, to come to the city so they could work on a steady job that did not rely on the weather, that could pay them all year long, there also became a need to fill all those positions. So now we had an increased demand for slavery. The textile companies still needed cotton to produce their products, and they needed to do it as cheap as possible. So slave labor met that criteria. Also, during the Industrial Revolution, with so many factories opening, pollution was a huge problem back then. Still is today. The Industrial Revolution was a very interesting time. It was a very fast-paced, inventive, creative, just a very interesting period in time. And we are still reaping the benefits of what the Industrial Revolution gave us.